There's a slight programming change.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that memo. I apologize.
So Yin was unable to join us. She had a slight family emergency. So Winston has come and graciously given us his time to join from GALE to kind of dive into the topic.
Thank you.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
So thanks everyone for sticking around for the exciting story and the exciting conversation about milk today. I figured just to kind of start it off, we'd do some ice-breaking questions since with milk, there's sort of a couple different kinds. There's skim milk, there's low fat, there's whole milk. So what's the preference for you two in terms of those milks?
Good idea. Look it down. Yeah, so well, Winston figures out how to use the mic. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be whole milk. It's got to be whole milk.
And is vitamin D milk and whole milk like the same thing? Do those names interchange?
Yeah, I mean, vitamin D is, it's one of the few ingredients that is added to some of the products in milk. But if you think about milk, which has obviously struggled a little bit in the last 22 years from a consumption perspective, whole milk is on fire right now. Keto, full fat. It's got to be whole milk.
Winston?
Hello? Oh, there we go. So I'm a lactate fan. That's an innovative new milk.
A new twist on it.
Yeah.
I like that. And if we look at the infamous like milk and cookies, do we dip or not dip if we're doing lactose milk or not?
Well, we'll talk about it, but no milk and cookies.
Zero. We're out of the milk and cookies game.
Yeah,
We're anti-cookies.
it's done. There's
We're
no
done.
more?
No,
All
we're
right.
done.
There we go.
No.
We're going to get into it.
We're anti-cookies.
All right, so we're here to talk about Meal Prep, but you guys are both from GALE, which is really the agency working with Meal Prep to bring their strategy to market. So before we dive into the Meal Prep story, tell us a little bit about GALE specifically. I know you're the founder of the agency.
Mm-hmm.
Just told me in 7 years got to over 750 people in 7 years. So that's like the little engine that's grown so quickly. So tell me a little bit about the agency, how it came to be, and what you guys work on.
Yeah, someone recently wrote an article about us, and they called us a sleepy research agency. I'm like, I don't know how that works out if you grow 700 people in 7 years. But look, at the highest level, what we say at GALE is about great people plus great clients in our culture, and working together. But we are truly modern because we've only been around for 7 years. And for us, it's about hiring unbelievable talent that's curious and passionate, finding what we would consider really innovative clients that want to do really interesting marketing, and then just collaborating with them to drive interesting outcomes. And we've had a great run over the last 7 years, and we're fortunate to work with a ton of great clients.
So talk to me a little bit more about the creative process within the agency. So what sort of drives that? What makes you different from other agencies that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one word, which is integrated. When we started GALE, it was the idea of consultancy plus creativity. And 7 or 8 years ago, when we were out having conversations with folks, frankly, people thought we were completely crazy. There's no way you can get a consultancy mindset and a creative mindset together in one agency to be productive. And I think the thing that we did, which Winston can absolutely talk about, is we basically decided that we were going to be strategy and data led, and all of the functions that we brought in, all of the people that we hired had to believe that marketing needed to be data and strategy led. So when we go and hire unbelievable creative talent like Winston, or when we hire unbelievable media talent like Linda Platt or Jeff Edwards, it's a very clear conversation, which is we are data and strategy led. And if you believe that's where marketing needs to go, then come and join us and let's do some great work together. But that's a non-negotiable, and that often means a completely different way of working. And so it's like entrance criteria, and folks that want to work that way, we're a great place to work, and clients that want to work that way, we're a great agency to work with them. We do that a lot at MilkPep and a lot of great clients.
Yeah, I mean, Brad and I actually, we joke, we met at a Michael's cafeteria, and Michael's headquarters, if you know the arts and crafts.
The craft store, yeah.
Yeah, the craft at the headquarters of Michael's, and I was working on a brand transformation project as a consultant. Brad was brought in to help with data, CRM, audiences, And we met, and having been on the creative side of the business for many years, we've been talking about data for years. But frankly, I never saw it. I never met a it was always just a lot of lip service, frankly. And once I saw the GALE machine and how they think, and really leading with business insights, leading with business strategy, it was like, I leaned in, and I think we both had this idea that it shouldn't just be brand marketing over here on the left, performance on the right. They have to work together. No one has really done it at scale. And I love that GALE had this foundation of business thinking, data, audience understanding, and then just we layer storytelling and creative experience on top. So I think it's fueled a lot of the growth.
I love that. I'm starting to understand why Brand Innovators put us together, because at MyCode we have something called the Intelligence Center, and it drives all of the fusion of what we do from strategy all the way to creative ideas, and it's fueled on that data. So looking at things from browsing behavior, just on content consumption, but then also using panels and actually asking real life questions and getting real data back and matching that back in. So that's awesome. I think that sort of strategy makes a ton of sense and aligns with what we do. So let's shift gears and shift over to your client in MilkPEP and talk a little bit about their challenges. I know obviously Got Milk, I'm assuming there's not necessarily a brand awareness problem, but I'm sure they have some other challenges they were trying to solve for. So tell us a little bit about what they were doing, some of the changes that you mentioned and that are no longer a part of the strategy, and where it's going now.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the insight, and then you could talk a little bit. So it was really interesting. If you think about milk as a category, it hasn't grown in 25 years. So everyone talks about Got Milk as an iconic brand campaign that frankly did nothing for sales, which is a really interesting idea. For us, that is like the whole entire challenge summed up into one. And and so the thing that was interesting when we started working with Yin and MilkPEP and all of the processors was when we looked at the data, although the category of milk hasn't grown in, let's call it 22 or 23 years, there are subcategories that are growing. So for example, things we call value-added milk, which we put whole milk in, organic milk, lactate, protein and feed. Like there is a whole category that is growing 11, 12, 14% a year. And the interesting thing is, if our job as the category, which is what MilkPEP is, the processor's education program, is to grow the consumption of milk, the liters of milk consumed, the insight was really clear, which is, you can't move all the buckets of milk. And when you look at it holistically, you actually, see a massive decline. But if we could double or triple the actual value-added group, the stuff that's growing, that's an opportunity to change that top line by focusing on something that's growing and really getting into that. So then digging into that and understand who's buying that and what they feel like and why they're buying it and what the purpose is and what's driving their consumption moves you very quickly away from milk and cereals and milk and cookies to milk as a performance beverage. And that's an insight that comes from the data. The data insight leads you to an audience. Understanding the audience leads you to a usage that leads you to a strategy. And that is at the core of how we think about reshaping the category, which is reshaping why milk is used. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, and so you can kind of see our process. So Brad and I are talking about this with the creative team, and we started working on MilkPEP in an Olympics year, and MilkPEP's been a long time Olympic sponsor. So we got to this insight that if you think about it, milk is the original sports drink. It's been fueling athletes since 776 BC, right? Before their Gatorade, there was milk. And we really love that because it was like a record scratch kind of idea, but also as a truth. It's undeniable. And, in athletic circles, chocolate milk has been known as a recovery drink for a long time. But, going back even to the earliest days of, Julius Erving chugging a bottle of milk after a victory, there was evidence in culture that we wanted to pull out. And we wanted to drive, as Brad was kind of saying, new occasions. Don't think about us in the familiar ways. Milk and cookies is how everyone thinks about us, and it's not working. And the other thing I'd say is it's heartbreaking for a lot of advertisers and creative people when they find out Got Milk didn't work over time. And so we knew that we needed this kind of what we call a reconsideration strategy. So out of everything Brad said, our sole mission was drive reconsideration for milk as a performance drink. And that is kind of the foundational mission that we've been working off of for a while.
What I love about what you set up too is you gave yourselves an opportunity to measure yourselves with data as well. So you've got an opportunity to understand the value of what you're doing and can actually measure it with something sustainable. That's great. So one of the other things that we talked about before we dive into some of the great work that I think exemplifies the strategy you put together, one of the things that was intriguing to me is you work with over 1,100 brands of milk. I mean, that's a lot.
Yep.
So talk about some of the challenges of that and how you guys have sort of navigated that.
Yeah, I mean, so if you think about milk pep as the category, right? So as the category of milk, and you can't buy milk pep in your, local corner store or your Whole Foods or your grocery store. You're buying your local brand. And those brands are actually the folks that are the clients of milk pep, right? So we are moving the category so folks actually buy that. But when you look at it, they are, to some extent, our clients. And it's a very uneven play. You have very large brands that are almost national. You have small local brands that sell just in their cities. You have fully integrated brands. You have brands that have cracked different processing processes. So you have extended life brands where the milk is good for 4 months. You have brands that are producing specialty product, and so all the brand space is uneven, and it creates this interesting challenge because it represents the last mile. Because folks don't buy from milk pep, they buy from the brands, right? And so as we think about activations and campaigns and modern claims, and as we think about the audiences and the insights being very tightly coupled with all those brands in almost a way in which our job is B2C, reposition consideration of milk, but it's also B2B because we have to work with all those brands to keep that red thread through what they're doing and their competitors, because we're pre-competition. And so it is this really interesting type of client situation where we have the processors that are what people actually buy. We have the consumers that we're messaging to that know things like Got Milk, and how we balance those to create a very seamless customer experience. And so it provides lots of opportunities, I would say.
I bet. So let's jump into the work real quick. I know one of the partnerships that we talked about was your partnership with NFL athletes and sort of a starting point of positioning things as a performance drink. So tell me a little bit about the partnership with the NFL athletes and how that came to be.
Yeah, I mean, it started, this was our follow-up to the Olympics campaign. And again, the one challenge of the Olympics, right, is it's a very crowded space, and we're not one of the giant brands there. So we knew we needed to go beyond, and NFL was a partnership that came down. And so one of the things we had learned is milk has been really successful in its past because it's done a lot of great marketing through over the last 30 years, is when it's fun, when it brings a smile to people's face. And there was early days of TikTok. There was a Got Milk challenge, which was with Katie Ledecky swimming in the length of a swimming pool, chocolate milk on her head. It was legit. And we looked at that, and then there were some other things that were more serious and focused, and those things just didn't do as well. And particularly when you're trying to change people's minds about milk, you have to have a little bit of a wink with it. So rather than just go into, and the other thing with NFL is, Gatorade owns that relationship. So we had to find some interesting new spaces. So we worked with 4 athletes, Justin Hebert, Juju, Derrick Henry, and Terry McLaurin. And rather than have them just do the predictable type of athletic demonstration, we put them up against seemingly impossible challenges and really directed at teens and tweens through TikTok. So we had Justin take out drones. We had Derrick knock down, a bunch of dairy aisles in a supermarket, and try to just, again, have fun, but bring this performance message to our audiences in a way maybe they hadn't seen it, and to be unexpected. I think that's the other challenge. We're competing with everything, particularly in culture, and as we waded into performance culture, we wanted to find interesting new ways to deliver the message. We followed it up actually with something we were even more passionate about with. We had some Super Bowl media around the stadium, SoFi Stadium, and we had a flag female football partnership. And a lot of people don't know this, but flag is, pre-pandemic, is one of the fastest growing sports in America, flag football. It's inclusive, everybody can get in. And we really wanted to hear that and also hero female athletes. Inclusivity is a really important value for us, particularly as we're trying to reach more moms and daughters and just everyone. But we've sponsored 4 professional female football players. A lot of people don't know, but there is actual tackle football. And one of the insights is, at first we went in and we're like, we're going to sponsor and get behind flag football, which we really did. But a lot of the women that play football were like, no, but we want to do what the boys do. Like, it's not just about flag. It's about we want access to the entirety of what football is. So we did a whole campaign called Football's Football in support of inclusivity, women, female athletes in football. So that was that part of the campaign.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. I didn't even know that part of it, so that I learned something new here. Well, you mentioned the word unexpected, and it'd be hard not to bring up the relevancy and the unexpected takeover of the city that I've seen. Talk to you a little bit about what you guys are doing here in New York and sort of the takeover as it relates.
Yeah, I mean, again, trying to be inclusive, representative. We are sponsoring every single woman that wants to run the New York City Marathon. And we are taking their entry fee and matching it to a charitable donation to Girls on the Run, which supports young girls. And again, this was really an attempt to drive home that performance message. And do it in a way that is truly helpful. I mean, I think we don't want to be a brand that just shouts from the stands, look at us, check out what we're doing. We want to create some value. And this is a genuine sponsorship. I mean, it's not just, again, lip service. It's really getting behind these women. So what we've done is, we have a call for entries. The marathon's coming up in a couple weeks. And we've let them know that Milk wants to sponsor them. And so that, beyond the charitable donation, we are treating them like pros. So pre-race, nutrition tips, trainer tips. We're going to have a presence at the expo, the Javits Center. So race day, pre-race day, we'll be there, and then we'll be there for recovery with chocolate milk and beyond. And we've already had, I think 1,300 signups.
That's amazing.
Of women. So it's getting traction. And what we're excited about, Brad really talks a lot about this idea of scale. And I think it's important for creative today. I mean, you've got to try a lot of things, but we look for ideas that will and can scale. And for us, this is something we're really curious about. Is marathon something that we can get behind in the future?
Well, speaking of ideas that scale, even shifting gears from sports and thinking about performance drinks for gamers. So talk to me about that, because I thought that's okay. I have 3 kids, 2 of them are boys who also drink an enormous amount of milk. So I see the synergy right there in my own home. So yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, our sponsorship of TwitchCon as the performance drink for gamers, which happened a few weekends ago, was also completely unexpected. No one expected Milk to show up there. There had been traditional beverages, Mountain Dew and such in there. And we were the lead sponsor. And we showed up at TwitchCon, which is obviously a monster gaming activity. And we had a huge experiential component there. We had a game that we had set up in a booth that tested your reflexes. We had a massive leaderboard that basically you could see from almost anywhere. We had lines that were almost 45 minutes long. People were like waiting, and they would come back and see that they had dropped off, and then they were back in, and they would line up. And one of the things I think that is really interesting about those examples, right? The NFL example, football is football. The marathon example and the TwitchCon example is we hear all the time brands want to be courageous, they want to reinvent. But one of the things I would say about someone like Yin, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but she would definitely appreciate this, is she's a brave marketer. But she also realizes that if you really want to do something different in today's world, the connection of media and creativity with no space between them is how this happens. And so you asked me about GALE at the beginning. Our ability to do media at scale, but have great creative and have it in-house means we pull off things like, football is football, because we're thinking about the idea, we're thinking about the media space, we're ideating on the idea and the media together to come up with it. Or the marathon, we have crazy out of home starting on the 26th. That is just going to be just epic. We've got boards, we're in Javits Center, we've got experiential component. There's no distance between media, experiential, creative, and activation. When those teams get together, and as much as you try to create an IAT and you try to get together every week or every few weeks, like the speed at which we come up with something like a TwitchCon, where it's like, that's open, the media team comes to the creative team, it's like, how can we do that? All of a sudden we've got a booth, we've got a game, we've got sampling, we've got a trophy, like the speed at which that's happening, I think is a real testament to Milk, Pep, and Yin, because she knows to be transformative and accomplish tough goals, we need to work differently. And I think that TwitchCon's a great example, and now we're in gaming, right? We have a big push on gaming as a performance, a way in on teens and tweens, right?
Well, and that nimbleness, I think, allows you to just move quickly and really respond to that moment in time. Like there's these captures and moments in time that you can capitalize, and you have to be able to move quickly to do that in today's media world.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's no space for let's get a Zoom going. I mean, there's stuff coming in on the marathon at Twitter. It's coming in and it's like 7 minutes. You like something comes in and it's like you turn your, so like, as much as you want to be an agile marketer and you want to bring it in, I mean, our structure allows for these kind of interesting ideas in which you're blending media and creativity into experiences. And I think that's what transforms brands nowadays. And
I think the other thing is it's not just about a buy. Media is creative, creative is media. I think what Yin is smart about too is like we got to stick our nose where we don't belong sometimes. The marathon, we're not a sponsor. So we hacked our way into that. And if you do that in a way that is smart, it's audience focused, and again, you're truly trying to help, and
you bring value. You're stepping up and bringing value.
You have to think about, we are, kind of the roots of GALE are also in customer experience. And, that's where I spend a lot of my time is truly thinking about what is that an experience for that runner? We have to deliver on that. It can't just be about great out of home. And for the gamers too. You can't just show up and say, hey, we're a performance drink for gamers. Okay, why? How? What are you going to do for me?
Yeah, and if you think about the marathon, right? 40,000 folks or so run it. Let's just say 50% of them are female. We thought we would get 200 or 300 runners to sign up, right? Sign up, we're going to do a donation. It's great. We're going to cheer you on. We're going to celebrate you. Blowing past 1,100. We still got 2.5 weeks. We've got a big media
go back
push
to you and
coming
say
up.
it's going to cost a little bit more than we thought.
Yeah.
It's a good problem.
It is, but it's the impact, right? I mean, it's authentic impact. And I think that, it's just picking up speed and that's exciting to see. Yeah.
Congratulations, that's really great. One of the things that My Code specializes in, we focus on reaching and engaging with multicultural audiences. We look at browsing behavior outside the U.S. to understand country of origin, and we see these incredible nuances within U.S. Hispanics. They're not all the same, and there's these cultural nuances that come out based on obviously where they're from and their culture. Have you guys looked at milk in that way? Because I have to imagine milk has some very different meanings and uses and sort of brand even sort of perceptions, if you will, across some of those cultures. Have you guys seen any of that, and what are some of the things you've noticed?
I'll take a stab at that, and Brad, if you have thoughts. I mean, one thing for us, we don't like to, and this is one of Brad's saying, like, we don't think about campaigns. For us, it's, again, we have a marketing mission. We have a bunch of different, many different audiences. We're in 17 addressable markets with out of home, always on. We have 180 influencers or more actually, working with, targeted at moms and daughters. We are doing the core athlete stuff, the marathon work. It's like a layered cake, and again, we are really thinking in an annualized kind of basis in a way and always iterating. So I think the audience thing is a core piece, and for us, being relevant is really the mission.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when you take an audience-first approach and you look at the consumption of milk, you do find differences, the different usage occasions. But when we think about repositioning milk, it started with modern claims and then modern uses. And so you can absolutely boil it down to, various audiences, various groups consume milk in different ways at different points, at different times. But the thing that's more interesting is the uses for it, right? So as we move out of the modern claims around milk, like milk hydrates better than water, and then you get into uses, various groups use it differently. Some audiences use it in cooking in a very interesting way, and then they cook different things. Some do, as much as we don't like, still value the cereal and the big breakfast and the big family in the morning. So there are absolutely differences based off of country of origin, and it's not only about when they consume, but how they consume it in a modern way. We're just about to move into what we think of as milk inside, which is modern milk uses inside. As you use it to, create your protein shakes or do your overnight oats or, cooking and using it as a modern beverage, that also gets to country of origin, a little bit different. So we're always thinking about how the modern family is using milk in a modern way and then making it relevant for them.
For me too, I would think even performance drink, like the word performance is going to mean different things. And an example I'll give you from our side, we did this amazing work with GMC, and the tagline professional grade. So professional to different cultures means a very different thing. So we dove into that definition and sort of redefined it, where it's not that big tough guy. It actually became a much softer version. So I can imagine that performance drink having a very similar application, and when you look at those cultures.
100%.
One thing I want to close up before we maybe leave a few minutes for questions is just back to the innovation side. You guys are doing a lot and very prevalent across TikTok. So talk real quick just about that, and also a little bit about sort of your guys' propensity for trying out new platforms. And you already mentioned sort of really taking places and going places where you're unexpected or where you might not, have a place to be or normally want to play. But talk about new platforms and how you guys have thought about that, and specifically around your work with TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not talk about TikTok today, right? But what we started right from, Milk Pep and Got Milk and Milk all were on TikTok previous to even us working on the account. It's an important platform. It's one of our fastest growing in terms of followers. And when we're trying to reach young people, it's where we go. But it's more than just young people now, right? I mean, but I think for us, what we've learned, that real challenges, many of the brands that are crushing on social, they're chasing culture. And what I'll just say is, like, chasing culture and trends is typically not a great strategy, but it's a good way to get quick, like a lot of attention at once. But what we're trying to do is find our version of culture and define that, and it's a performance culture. So we've tried a lot of different things and are continuing to. And I think this is not new news, but particularly on these platforms, you have to make a lot of bets. And we're making trying different things on a daily and weekly basis on TikTok, and ultimately trying to be unexpected, keep that milk smile, but also deliver performance in a way that it doesn't feel like Nike.
Yeah. The thing I would say, though, is TikTok's interesting, but one of the things that we found is it's got to be broader than that. One of the platforms we love is Reddit. There's a subdomain called Milk on Reddit, where folks go on there and just tell their milk stories, like they are totally stoked about milk. And so the thing we've done, bringing creativity media together, is we've actually started taking those posts, getting them cleared by the creator, and putting them in out of home. So we're actually taking Reddit content created by consumers about milk and their uses and how they love them, and then putting them in out of home and making those folks famous, and then sharing those authentic stories. It's kind of like testimonials of 2022, right? And it's like, that is about being, laterally thinking. So when you think about integrated, it takes a creative team, and it takes the media team and a technology team and a PR team, and you're like, oh, that's an interesting idea. And we're just having that up because we're seeing a ton of great response around that. Modern testimonials from the subdomain of Reddit. And so it's broader than TikTok. You gotta keep looking a little lateral.
I think the takeaway for me over the last couple of years work on this is having to shift from a creation mindset to a curation mindset. You're not gonna just crush TikTok on your own. I mean, it's really, I like to say the public's more creative than the creative department, which is the truth. And I think This is why we believe in strategy more than anything today, because you're going to work with a variety of different partners, and often it's not the people in your own, four walls or your virtual space. It's creators out there. It's people that resonate with your audience, and you got to be, let them do their thing.
I'm going to let Yin have the last word here since it's topical to this. I read something that when you guys were talking, she wrote, culture eats strategy every time, but strategy wins if culture goes with it. So
There
kind
we
of
go.
in line with
That's
what you
great.
guys were saying right there.
We
So
appreciate it. Thanks.
we have about 15 seconds left. If there's one question, we can probably take it right now.
Seconds over.
Oh, we're 15 seconds over. Excuse me. I apologize. We're done. Thank you, everybody, for the time. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.